I think we may be live. Yes? Are we live, everybody? I can't tell.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Well, great. Thank you so much. We'll welcome San Bernardino City Unified Community to our COVID Safety Measures Town Hall for this evening. My name is Rachel Monares. I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Continuous Improvement. Happy to have you here. We're pleased to be able to share with you, answer as many questions as we possibly can around the safety measures that we've put in place for our schools. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our fabulous family engagement team so they could explain the interpretation services.
Thank you, Dr. Monares. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to switch over to Spanish just to go ahead and give those instructions so that our Spanish-speaking participants can listen in Spanish. Buenas tardes, muchas gracias por estar con nosotros en esta reunión. Si tenemos interpretación disponible, solamente va a ir al icono del globo que tiene la palabra interpretation abajo de la pantalla. De allí va a hacer clic a Spanish para español y luego Mute Original Audio para que no se oigan los dos idiomas. Vamos a poner las instrucciones en el chat también. Y si necesita apoyo o ayuda, cualquier cosa, por favor, mándanos un chat a mí, Kathleen, a Selena o a Esmeralda. Muchas gracias.
Have to unmute myself. All right, thank you so much. Next slide. So again, welcome to our town hall. I would like to turn it over and introduce our interim superintendent, Dr. Harold Volkamer. He's going to share some words of wisdom as well as some connection to our basics for excellence. So Dr. Volkamer, you are on.
Great, thank you, Dr. Monares. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce and just give them the floor for a second. Two people, and the first is our board president, Dr. Gwen Dowdy-Rogers. Gwen, if you'd like to greet the group, please.
Hello, everyone. It is a busy night, as we know. There's a lot going on, but this is a very, very important meeting. So I just wanted to, again, thank the staff, thank the parents, thank everyone that's attending. The number is growing, so it looks nice. And we definitely know that there is an urgency for all of us to be able to be on the same page as we move forward into looking at the next stages of how we open, how we unopen, how we're going to do all of the things that is pertaining to our wonderful students that we miss so much. But we appreciate you tonight on behalf of the Board of Education. We want to continue to tell you, stay engaged, continue to be engaged, continue to look forward to the updates that we provide, and know that it is important to us that your input and your fingerprints are on all that we do, because that is very important to us. So thank you so much, Dr. Volkamer, for allowing me to say a few words. And I do believe I saw Mr. Irving, Superintendent Irving is on the line.
And that's exactly where I was going next. So thank you, President.
Gwen, I was only as an outside observer, but
not anymore.
Thanks for having me here. So
absolutely,
I'm just echoing the words of Dr. Rogers. So well, hello everyone and welcome. And again, I'm here to learn as well. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Mr. Irvin. So everybody in attendance, good evening, and thank you so much for being here. I'm looking at the participant list. It's 162. We had 450 signed up to live stream it. So we're very excited about the turnout. We know there's lots and lots of information out there right now, and you know, it's so hard to not just capture a soundbite here and a little piece of information here and run with those little pieces if you don't have the entire message. And so what we want to do this evening is make sure that you have the latest information that we can give you. Much is still in flux, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit, but tying this back into our basics for excellence, and as any of you that have been around for a little bit know, our basics for excellence, they're really who we aspire to be as we do the work that we are called upon to do. And they're kind of aspirational type ideas that guide us in relation to how we want to conduct business. And so I'm going to focus on two of them for our intro this evening. The first one is service. We achieve success by consistently and effectively serving others. And we absolutely want to serve you and our families and our students in the very, very best way possible. We know that we've had to make a number of changes over the last 14 months. We'll continue to make a number of changes as guidance continues to evolve and we get new information from the state and from our county. But we absolutely have a heart for service and want to serve you well. And then the second basic that I wanted to highlight this evening is parameters of trust. We establish consistent parameters of trust that are characterized by honesty, transparency, and collaboration. We're here to collaborate with you this evening. We're going to give you some information. We're hopefully going to get some information from you and through your questions and any comments you have. But we really are going to be as open and transparent as we can possibly be. We would love to say we have everything nailed down and 100% ready to go for now, between now and August. But much is still in flux, as I mentioned earlier. And so what we're going to focus on this evening is our safety efforts. And no matter what our condition is in the next several months, and we know that that can change very quickly. We've seen it over this last year, right? The case rates can change, a vaccine can be paused, many different things can happen in terms of the guidance that we receive about what we are allowed to do with our students, whether that's feeding them, transporting them, or actually giving them instruction in a classroom. And so we're going to give you the best information that we have this evening about how we're taking that guidance, and that no matter what the program option is that's going to come based in August, which we'd love to have that crystal ball, but we're going to do it safely. And we know you're looking for certainty. We completely understand that. We would love to be able to be certain, but the truth of the matter is we can't predict what's going to be in place 3 or 4 or 5 months from now. And so we're going to give you our best. Our motto is prepared for excellence and ready for anything. We're going to give you the best information that we have this evening. And we're excited about that. We're excited about the many things that our district has done to ensure safety, a safe return for your students, whenever that is and whatever that looks like. And we're fully planning, and I want to say they sent out a letter a couple weeks ago, but we are fully planning based on all the indicators right now to open school, have in-person instruction in the summer, and then open school full-time, 5 days a week, just like we knew it a year ago, February, come August. And of course, the governor has shared that he plans to, with some conditions, and if those conditions are in place, open the state completely, restaurants at full capacity, businesses at full capacity, and he has made a special mention of schools being 5 days a week full-time. And so we want you to know that's our hope, our absolute hope. It is our intent, and we are planning for all of those types of options. It'll just depend on if case rates cooperate with us and we have the right conditions in place. So like I said, we're going to be completely honest, open, and transparent this evening with what we've done, where we're going. And I'm looking forward to hearing your questions. That gives us a good indication of where we have and have not perhaps communicated well. And also looking for your input and your feedback as we round out plans and determine how we're going to continue to get better as we progress toward the summer and the 2021-22 school year. So thank you very much. We're going to ask for your patience. You've been so great about giving us grace and patience all along the way in these last 14 or 15 months. We're going to need a little bit more through the rest of this transition, but we're looking forward to the transition. So thank you very much. Those are our basics for excellence, and thank you for giving me a few minutes to share. I'll turn it back over to you, Rachel.
Thank you, Dr. Welcomer. And we have 2 more board members that have joined us, I believe. So Dr. Wyatt or Ms. Ceballos, would either one of you, I know you put something in the chat. Did you want to say anything to the community before we move through our presentation?
Hi. No, just kind of again echoing what Dr. Rogers and Mr. Irvin had mentioned. You know, I'm glad to be here, and I don't want to take too much time, but I'm glad to see everybody else here. You know, thank you to the staff again, and that was it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak, Dr. Menars.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Ceballos. Dr. Wyatt?
Thank you, Dr. Menars, and just good evening to everyone. And Yes, it's great to see everyone here, and the number continues to increase. We're over 200 folks now. So just glad our families and our communities here to help us support us in moving forward with educating our kids and our children. We know we need to get back to school, and it's a gradual process, and we want to do so safely. It's great to see Superintendent Irwin here as well, and him supporting our community. He's already out here hitting the road, doing the job. So just looking forward to getting the input and support and comments from the community and our families and our children. And again, can't wait till our kids are back in school. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wyatt. All right, so we're going to go through this presentation. There will be points in the presentation where we will pause and we will ask for questions. We want to make sure everyone has the same information before we start answering questions. We want to thank those of you who also submitted questions ahead of time. We were able to incorporate the answers to those questions into the presentation. So if we can go to the next slide. So tonight, our sole objective for tonight, we're going to stay focused on the safety measures for our returning to in-person instruction for the 21-22 school year. So tonight you will hear about what we've done thus far and what we're doing in accordance with the guidance from the California Department of Public Health to offer in-person instruction for next school year. You will hear from various district staff in this presentation. And so I want to thank those staff members for being here tonight, their time and commitment to the district, to the families, and to the students of San Bernardino City. There's another date that we'd like you to put on your calendar and to hold. That is Monday, May 10th. We will have another town hall on that day. That will be specifically about our educational program for next school year. So if you have questions about the educational program, know that there's still some guidance that we're working through. So we decided to split this into two parts. Tonight, specific about the safety measures. On May 10th, we will give you more detail around the educational program. Tonight, we'll share a little bit about what we know. And on May 10th, again, from 6 to 8 o'clock, so same time, just a few weeks from now, we'll give you more detail on the educational program. And so with that, finally, I do want to share that under the guidance of our new superintendent, and you just heard from him briefly, Mr. Irving, we will be gathering all this information that you're hearing in both town halls, and we're going to put it into a document that's going to be called Roadmap to Opening 21-22 school year. That will be put on our website so you can reference that document sometime in June and into next school year. And so we're all looking at the same information gathering, and it'll be in one place for you. So look for that in the month of June. With that, if we could go to the next slide, please. So here is our agenda for tonight. Again, just so you get an idea of what this is going to look like. So welcome and objectives, we've just gone over that. We're about to jump into the update on the state and local rules. Then for reopening, we will talk about the safety measures that we have in place. We have a video to show you. Then we'll answer questions. And there's a couple of parts in there where we will answer questions for you. Again, if you've already submitted questions, we've done our best to incorporate it into the presentation so you don't have to re-ask that question unless you choose to. Maybe you have some more clarity that you need. And don't forget to hold Monday, May 10th, 6 to 8 o'clock, where you'll get more information on the educational program. Next slide, please. Selena, I'm going to turn it over to you momentarily.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Menares. So during the presentation, we ask that you please use the chat to provide any comments or ask your questions. We will also have a live question and answers following the presentation. During the presentation, me and my colleagues will be monitoring the chat for your questions. So you will have a moment at the end where we can maybe answer it, or your question may be answered during the presentation. If you have any other assistance or need assistance, please message us in the chat and we'll be here to help. Thank you, Dr. Menares.
Thank you, Selena. And again, I want to thank our Family Engagement Office, our Communications Office. They do a phenomenal job to get this going for all of us. And we have hundreds of people here in this meeting, but then we have even more who are watching through YouTube. So just really pleased to see all the participation from San Bernardino City community. Next slide, please. So if you are watching our board meetings, and I'm sure many of you are, that you have seen this slide multiple times. These are the guiding principles that our board has been using in determining if and when it would be deemed safe to do so to reopen for our students. And so I'm just going to quickly go through them with you. The first and foremost, we are in this pandemic because of health and safety. So our board was very diligent about ensuring health and physical safety of our students and staff, as well as adhering to federal, state, and county guidance. So tonight you will hear most specifically about the California Department of Public Health guidance that we are using, the way it works, and Mr. Vatier, our safety officer, will speak a little bit more about this. But if you listen to the news, you'll hear information coming from the Center for Disease Control, CDC, you'll hear that. That's federal. Then that informs states, and then states adopt information from there. So we follow the state guidance, and then of course we work with our local county public health. So ensuring our students and staff and family are healthy and physically safe is one of the guiding principles. Adhering to the state and county guidance is the other one. While we are still ensuring that we're providing high quality learning experiences and a safe and accessible work environment for all of the 7,000 employees that work for San Bernardino City. So these guiding principles have been the principles that the board has used in their decision making, and they will be part of our work moving forward. So you can rest assured that the safety and health has not been moved to the side, nor has the high quality learning experiences. Next slide, please. So Dr. Volkemer shared that at this moment, based off of what we understand and we've learned from the California Department of Health, we are planning to open next school year in what's called phase 4. And again, if you've watched our board meetings, you've seen this model presented multiple times. So phase 4 is what we consider school, right? 5 days a week, all day long. In that, the classroom instruction will have the appropriate safety measures, and we will go over what those measures are. And we want you to recognize, because we recognize that things like recess, passing periods, lunch, that will look different. And so our schools will be working with their school teams to develop schedules and protocols on what that will look like at each individual school, because you can imagine 72 schools in the district, they all look different. How a student enters and exits is going to look different at Muscoy than it is going to look at Baniol. So the schools will be working with that, and then they will be sharing that with the school community. So the details of what every school will look like in terms of those passing periods, again, recess, those type of things will be coming from your schools. But tonight we'll be able to give you some overview of that. The next slide shows the same image. So go ahead and click to go to the next one. And that's in Spanish for our Spanish speaking families. So again, our goal is to open in phase 4, so full person instruction, and still an option for any family that just does not feel comfortable yet sending their children back. We will have a virtual option for you. You'll hear a little bit about that tonight. You'll hear more about that on May 10th. We are sharing all this with you because we do need the information from you as to which you want for your children for next school year. So more to come on that. Next slide, please. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Rodriguez, and she will share what we do know about our educational program.
Thank you, Dr. Menares. Thank you for being here today. We have about 600 people on YouTube. Thank you so much for your participation and your involvement in learning more about what we're doing in the district as we prepare for reopening in the fall. Before we get too deep into the conversation today around safety protocols, we do want to let our parents know what we will be offering in the next school year. We know we will be offering full day, 5 days a week for all students. We also know that we will have a virtual option for families who do not feel comfortable sending their students to school. In the next 2 weeks, you will be receiving information for a survey that many of you have completed in the past, back in November, asking you to make a decision as to how you would like your student to get their education in the following school year. You will have on May 10th, we will provide you a more in-depth look at what the classroom will look like, what schedules will look like, and what the virtual option will look like. Next slide, please. We also wanted to let you know that whether you select in person or in a virtual setting, you will still have access. Sorry, I think we're muting everybody. We also want you to know that whether you select your student coming to school full-time every day, or whether you select virtual learning, your student will have access to all programming around social emotional supports, as well as wellness programs and family engagement. You will have access to all the programs that we offer in the school district. In addition, if your student chooses, or you as a family choose for your student to return back to school, safety protocols will be followed at all campuses, at all schools, because we want to make sure that your student is safe when they are at school. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. We also know and want you to know that should your student choose to stay in virtual learning, your student will have access to athletics, after-school activities, extracurricular activities, and they will not lose their place should they choose to return back to in-person to any program that they were whatever program they were in prior to the pandemic. So if your student was in GATE, if your student was in a special program, your student will continue to be in that special program when they return back into the school year. Next slide. Dr. Menares?
I'm actually going to turn that over and get into the safety measures with our safety officer, Mr. Vatier.
Thank you, Dr. Menares. Good evening, board, cabinet, and community. We're going to go over some safety measures with you just so you can get a sense of where we're at 13, 14 months later from the start of this pandemic. So bear with us as we work through some of this stuff. A lot of it you've heard before, but we want to make sure you get an update as soon as we get the information. Next slide, please. So the graph that I'm showing you is something that it's what we present at every school board meeting. And this is updated every 2 weeks, every week by the San Bernardino County Department of Public Health. The data that is in there is generally 7 to 14 days old. So as you can see, the most recent time that we have COVID case rates from is from April 4th through the 10th. And you can see we've found ourselves in orange tier, which is the moderate tier. And it does allow us to start relaxing some of the safety measures that we've had in place, bring back some of our sports, start to work to re-engage our staff and get them trained and back into the workforce. So COVID within our community is declining. The number of cases are decreasing. And with this, as well as our safety measures and our vaccines availability for our community, we believe we are going in the right direction as it relates to COVID. Next slide, please. So as you heard Dr. Menares speak, the guidance that we receive, so there's a lot of information that's out there. And you'll hear in the news that the CDC says something or that the federal government says something. And so you may have questions as how does that relate to our school district? How does that relate to the city I live in, my community? And so we want to help explain that a little bit better. So the CDC provides best practices. They're at the federal level. So they'll provide best practices, latest guidance, and they're looking at our nation as a whole. And then that trickles over to the state of California. And so we're under the guidance of the California Department of Public Health. So they will look at the guidance that's provided by the CDC and determine whether to adopt it, reject it, or modify it. And so they may look, for example, we heard the CDC say that if you've been vaccinated, that you no longer need to wear a mask with other vaccinated people. So the CDC said that, but the state of California has yet to adopt that as a rule. So they've still told us in California, and then within our county, that you shall still wear a face covering when you're with others, if regardless of vaccinations. So we really, as a school district, are looking at the most local level, California Department of Public Health, and then San Bernardino County Department of Public Health to determine which guidance we should follow. And that's for our communities, for how to open schools, how to open businesses, how to open the economy. We also have another layer, which is called Cal OSHA, and they look at employees and how does an employer keep employees safe. And so they have a similar set of guidance that tells us what we should do and how we should keep our employees safe. So you may have heard the change in distancing in schools that allows students to be within 3 feet of each other. So that is students that are within a classroom can be within three feet of each other. But Cal OSHA says that the adults that are in that room or adults that work with each other must still stay 6 feet away from others. So we really get a lot of guidance and almost on a every other day basis, and we have to interpret that and then put it into practice. Next slide, please. So over the course of the pandemic, you know that we started off where everything that you touched was dangerous, and wear gloves and wipe everything down. And science has monitored COVID over the course of the year and found that it really is an airborne virus, and that the chances of somebody catching it from touching a surface are very small. So all the cleaning measures of clean, constantly touch something, clean it, have really started to fade out. And we'll see that, as with any pandemic, you'll see that as the science learns more about it, then they start to streamline the precautions. And so where we've really found ourselves with our precautions is making sure that everyone is still wearing their face coverings, and that we do wash our hands, hand sanitize, frequently wash our hands, and that we do stay away from, stay distanced from each other. 3 feet for the kids, 6 feet for adults, but we want to give each other that distance. And that's per California Department of Public Health. We are anticipating additional guidance coming down that does talk about the physical distancing and what that may look like, especially in a school setting. Next slide, please. So this is on the right side of your screen, you're gonna see a flyer or a poster, and you'll find this throughout our school campuses. And what this is doing is this is allowing you to be our eyes and ears, our students, our staff, our families, our community, allowing you to be our eyes and ears, be a force multiplier, as we've heard say in our district. So should you see something that you believe is out of sorts, or you think that we could do better on as it relates to the COVID safety, we want you to find this poster, find the phone number, either scan the QR code or give us a call at the 381-1184. Report what your findings are, report what you're seeing, and give us an opportunity to correct it. So we know that with over 85 locations, 40,000 students, 8,000 employees, we're not going to catch everything. And it's going to take us some time to really fine tune all of the safety practices that we've put in place. So we're asking you, as you see stuff, please give us a call and let us know so that we can take a look at it and take any corrective action that needs to be taken. And with that, I think we're going to play a video now. Dr. Menards, did you want to say anything before we move into that?
Yes, let me open the video if I could. So thank you, Mr. Vatier. And there's a lot of questions coming in on the chat, so thank you, families. Again, remember the questions around the educational program, we may have some of those answers. The rest we will have for you to the best of our ability on May 10th. So the video that you're about to see, we are actually putting a disclaimer on it. You'll see it at the very beginning of the video because there is so much that things change so quickly. So this video was developed and then we had to redevelop it because we get updates from the California Department of Public Health and they change things as they learn more about this virus, right? So what you will see tonight is what we know at this moment. And there may be things that change between now and even June, because it appears that there could be some new developments that happen. We learn from the California Department of Public Health. That's the agency that gives us the most updated information. So what you see here, again, it could change between now and when school starts. But just rest assured that we use the California Department of Public Health as our entity to guide us, along with our local public health. And we'll put the website for the California Department of Public Health in the chat. You can go there, and they have it both in English and Spanish, so it can be translated for you. So with that, it's about a 5-minute video. As you watch the video, we try to make it so that it's through the eyes of a child. It's actually one of our students who is speaking in the video, and what that child would experience when they first enter the school. Now, we understand this may not be your particular school, but it gives you an idea of what all of our schools will have. And again, the schools will then develop their specific plans. So with that, we can go ahead and play the video. Thank you.
Esmeralda, you have to unmute.
Hi, my name is Paige, and I'm a 6th grader at Richardson Prep High Middle School. I'm looking forward to returning to campus when schools in the San Bernardino City Unified School District are safe to reopen. We know that hundreds of district employees have been hard at work to ensure our schools are clean and safe for us. Let's take a look at some of the biggest changes that have taken place across the district since the coronavirus closed our schools in March. These are a few of the many tools that will help keep germs at bay. Face coverings are required to be worn at all times while on district campuses. But don't worry, schools will keep extras on hand if you forget them. More than 3,000 hand sanitizer stations have been placed strategically in classrooms and other high-traffic areas. And we will all be reminded to sanitize our hands frequently while in school. Posters and signage will remind everyone to regulate their hands, maintain physical distance, and self-monitor for COVID-19 symptoms. And our schools will be asking parents and guardians to check their children's temperature before sending students to school. Hundreds of temperature screening kiosks have been installed at the entrance to all our schools and office buildings. These stations will screen each person coming to our facilities to ensure they're wearing a face covering and are not running a fever. Students who come to school with a fever or get sick during the school day will be taken to an isolation room and cared for by school employees, who will ensure that students are comfortable until they can be picked up by a parent or guardian. And there are smaller but equally important changes taking place across our campuses. Drinking fountains are being converted into bottle filling stations that are safer. Every school will have restroom procedures ensuring that only designated stalls are used. Certain stalls will be locked so students can continue maintaining their distance across campus. Markers have been placed on the ground to indicate appropriate places to stand to ensure physical distance inside and outside classrooms and throughout school campuses. Student desks have been spaced out by removing extra classroom furniture. It will be easier to limit contact between different classes. In fact, there will be minimal rotation of students. And our school administrators ask that, for everyone's safety, parents or those dropping students off at school not congregate. Our district invested in powerful, state-of-the-art, medical-grade HEPA filter units to provide cleaner air in classrooms and offices. These air circulation units can quietly filter the air in an average-sized classroom 4 times every 30 minutes. Pretty neat, huh? And MERV 11 filters have also been installed on rooftop air conditioning units across the district. Each school is working with its own school community to develop plans for minimizing student interaction on playground and during passing periods. Because every campus is different, every school's plan will be unique, but all will meet state safety standards. Across SBCUSD schools, signs will remind students to maintain physical distance. All those state rules have recently changed to allow 3 feet of distance, SBCUSD will remind students to continue keeping 6 feet of distance as much as possible. Custodians will play an important role in the sanitation of schools, and they have received additional training in cleaning procedures. That's important because they'll be using a new tool called an electrostatic sprayer to sanitize high traffic areas throughout the day and after the school bell rings. Before schools welcome students back, an industrial hygienist, administrators, and other personnel will carefully walk through each campus to make sure all conditions are optimal and safe for students and staff. They will be verifying that schools meet stringent federal, state, and local regulations. As you can see, our school district and Board of Education are at the forefront of the fight against COVID-19. This ongoing work is aimed at ensuring the highest degree of safety and adherence to state and local mandates. With these extra precautions and your help, San Bernardino and Highland schools will be ready to welcome students back when it's safe to do so. Stay tuned to learn more about additional measures the San Bernardino City Unified School District is taking to keep students and staff safe. And be sure to follow SBCUSD on social media for the latest updates about school operations. Remember, we're all in this together. Hope to see you soon. For more information, visit our website at sbcusd.com/readysbcusd.
All right, so that's to give you a visual of everything that's been going on and what will be available for your child. Now that probably still leaves questions in your mind. Again, before I go to the next slide, I do want to reiterate, your schools will come up with the detailed plans of the movement of children and you know, from the sidewalk into the school, to the screening area and all of that. And we are working with principals starting this week. So they are getting that plan together, and then you can anticipate that then they will be bringing it to the community, the school community, sometime in June. So be on the lookout for that. I did see a parent who asked when that was going to be coming forward. So sometime in June. They want to work with, of course, their teachers and their classified staff, so our office staff and all of that. So in order to help make this happen, next slide, the San Bernardino City Unified School Board took action actually quite a long time ago in August. We just need to click it to get to the next slide. There we go. And they've already adopted a board policy. It's called Board Policy 0470. It's the COVID-19 mitigation plan. And the first adoption of that, and it's 18 pages, so it's quite detailed board policy around anything and everything that we knew related to COVID at that time on August 18th. It has since been amended on April 6th because we had new information, not so much about the safety measures, but also about some graduation information and those type of things. So there is board policy already in place. And so what we're going to do next is we're going to share with you some of the questions that have come up to us and show you how that is in our board policy. So the questions around students wearing face coverings for children who have special needs, well, that's in our board policy because we're not going to punish children who may not be able to wear a face covering. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Lundy, and she will share what the board policy says most specifically about students with special needs. Dr. Lundy. Dr. Lundy, make sure there you go. Unmute yourself. You cannot. We need to give her permission to unmute herself, please.
Go ahead, you got it. Try it. There you go. Thank you. I was like, I can't unmute. It says I need permission. Thank you. Next slide, please. So for our students with special needs, and I also saw it in the chat as well, face covering shall not be allowed for anyone who, number one, has trouble breathing, or is otherwise unable to remove a covering without assistance. So for example, for our special education students who may have autism or may be severely disabled, if they're unable to wear a face covering, they could have protective shields. They can have alternative methods by which to keep them safe. And so our provisions will be on the side of our educators to make sure that they have coverings, that we have special protective gear for them so that they can cover their arms, they can cover their face, or their level of comfort, depending on what our students have and need in terms of being able to return to school safely. Persons or students who are hearing impaired or need help with communications will also have special sorts of masks because obviously if you have to have speech or if you're deaf of hard of hearing, you're not going to be able to wear the cloth mask. So we have purchased special masks for those individuals so that they have an actual clear in the front so that you can see the mouth, and if you have need sign language or need to be able to read lips. So we're making special provisions for those students as well. And to support our students who have medical conditions or through a doctor's note, we are going to make sure that those students have the provisions that they need so that they're able to attend school and that the mask does not become a way that they're not able to access IDEA. However, in those extreme circumstances where the student may be a danger to themselves or to the teachers or to the community at large, we still also have, or if the parent does not feel comfortable with their students not being able to wear masks, we definitely still will allow our special education students to have access to virtual learning as well. So we will have a component of our virtual school to make sure that our students in special education are able to receive all of the services in their IEP, even if it's in a virtual setting. So hopefully that answers the question. So obviously there is going to be some provisions for our students who are unable to wear the mask so that we'll put some securities in place. And for whatever reason, if the parents are not comfortable with them not wearing a mask and does not want to send them to school and they choose to keep them in distance learning, we will also make sure that we continue with the same services that we have in place now and make sure that the IEP matches what we're saying that we're going to do so that the students have access to everything that they need to make sure that they meet their IEP goals. Thank you. Next slide. I think that's.
Good afternoon, everybody. Beatrice Gonzalez. I'm the director of the Family Engagement Department, and I'm going to talk about visitors and volunteers. But I first want to start off with a comment that a parent made directly to me. She said, wow, she goes, this is challenging, but I love to see how the district is just giving it their all for our students. So just thank you for that comment, and thank you to all the directors and everyone that's here today for our families and for our students. This is why we're here. So again, visitors and volunteers, we're talking about board policies, and we're encouraging everyone to continue to visit. Again, our amazing board continues to encourage visitors during these times. However, there's a few policies that we need to adhere to. All visitors and volunteers are encouraged to respect guidelines regarding physical distancing and large gatherings. All visitors shall be limited in number and expected to observe all district protocols for COVID-19. There's going to be signage placed around the school advising that visitors and volunteers will be required to use PPE while on school sites and while interacting with school personnel. So again, we will have visitors, we will have volunteers, but everything's going to be limited. And there will be signs all over the place advising you as far as what these protocols will entail. So thank you. Next slide.
And good evening, everyone. I'll take this one. Good to see all the questions being posed and the answers, and all the district and the community coming together to do what's best for our community, our scholars, to get them back in school. And so there have been numerous or a great number of questions about vaccinations and if they're required. And there's been some information shared and lots of thoughts around if one should be vaccinated and if one should not be vaccinated. And there are two things that we do know that are in front of you right here, and that vaccinations are a personal decision. And at this no time, there are no legal requirements for staff members or our scholars to be vaccinated. And then number two, anyone who wants to receive the vaccination, you may register at any time with the information that's in front of you. So between now and then, I'm sure there'll be more information about vaccinations, but right now at this point, there are no mandates, no requirements for our students and or staff to be vaccinated. Thank you. Next slide.
So we're going to pause right here and we're going to start with some questions. There still is a bit more of the presentation, but we want to get some questions done and then we'll come back to the presentation and then we'll finish off, okay? So Selena, can you keep track of everybody? I do know that for certain Suzanne or Susanna, I'm not sure, had a question. Her hand was raised.
Yes, I was gonna start with Suzanne. Suzanne, if you're here, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, I have a few questions. One, I have one daughter who has ADHD. She has a 504 plan. My concerns are this: she's currently a second grader going into third grade. She is nowhere near ready for third grade next year, where state testing starts. Nowhere near. From this last year of online learning, she is not a child that could learn online. So my child is way behind. What are you guys going to offer us? Offer us for our students that because of this last year, how are they going to come up to state standard testing?
Thank you for your question, Susanna. Ms. Applegate, can you share some of the supports that are going to be put in place to answer this parent's question?
Yes, thank you for your very important question. And we do want you to know that we are implementing many extra supports to make sure that our students get the support that they need in order to be successful. So one of the things that we are doing is we are including more guest teachers in the classrooms themselves to help with small group instruction, to help bring students up in reading and in math, TK through 6th. Every school also offers extra tutoring, and we have several departments downtown that are offering tutoring. And then we also have a company called BrainFuse and others that are going to be offering tutoring for the entire year. And students can access that in the evenings or on Saturdays. So there will be plenty of support there. And we also have our, I'm sorry, go ahead.
But then that means me taking my child somewhere else that she's not familiar with.
No, the tutoring is
talking about.
Our tutoring is being offered virtually and at the schools as well.
Oh, well, if it's at the school, fine. But that's my main problem. My daughter she is not an online learner. She is not, she is second grade and she can't even read phonics because of this last year.
Yeah, so then we will be providing the tutoring at the school, and she'll have extra time at school specifically for reading instruction and intervention. So we're looking at an extra block to make sure that students get that extra support that they need.
Okay, now my next question is her 504 meeting, annual meeting is usually at the beginning of the calendar year, not the school year. So what are we going to do about when she starts in August and she needs a whole bunch of more accommodations because of this past year?
My apologies. Dr. Lundy, can you basically, Ms. Susanna, you can request a 504 meeting again at your school and they can put those accommodations in place. You don't have to wait until the yearly review on that. So that is your right as a parent.
Okay. Now I just have one more question because I have 3 children. My middle child, she's fine. But now I also have a child that he's currently in preschool, but because of his birthday by 4 days, they haven't decided, and he had an IEP. He has an IEP because he's a level 2 autistic with speech delay. So he currently he goes to Harmon, but he currently also does twice a week online speech therapy. Okay. My question to you is, the special education department lady that works with my son, great. She has been trying to tell whoever, I think the district or whoever is in control of preschool or whatever. Huh?
No, go ahead. It's someone unmuted accidentally.
Oh, okay. My question is this. We're going up on the, what is it you guys call to start enrolling for like TK?
Yes.
And I don't know if they're gonna allow my child to do another year of preschool because of his condition, his disabilities, or are they gonna send me a letter? Oh, you need to go enroll him at last minute.
Yes. So Susanna, we have our special ed team on. What they'll do is, can you send them information in the chat? I think you're on your phone. Can you do that? If not, then they'll, okay, send it in the chat and then they will reach out to you personally and talk to you, okay?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Absolutely. There's quite a few that are on this call right now, on this meeting.
So just so you know, Susanna, as well, I'm Dr. Lundy. I'm the director for special education. And so if you give us your information, I'll make sure that somebody will contact you for both of your students, because I also am in charge of 504s and there's some in-home supports that I can provide. You. So we'll call you by tomorrow for sure, okay?
Okay, I'll just put, can I put my daughter's lunch number in my info, or do you want me to put my phone number in the chat box?
No, you don't have to put your phone number. Go ahead and put your child's name in, and that's fine. They'll, just so they can call you. Okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will there be assistance for her using a mask? Because she fidgets because of her ADHD. She takes it off and she fidgets a lot. Will there be somebody there to like constantly remind her, don't put your mask on, cover your nose, like I have to do when we go out in public?
Yes, and she will not be punished for it either, right? So it is a constant reminder for our students. So yes, absolutely. I don't want you to think that it's going to be a one-on-one, but that's going to be part of the routines with the teachers for certain.
Okay. All right. I will put that information in there, Miss. It's Miss Dr. London.
Yes, Dr. Lundy, for sure. Yes, absolutely.
Lundy. Okay, I will do that right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Suzanne. We have Angelica Alvarado. You can go ahead and unmute to ask your question.
I have a question. I have a kindergarten right now entering first grade in the new year. Now I have co-workers that have students in the LA district. My question is, they're getting COVID testing once a week when they re-enter the new year, or now actually. Is that something San Bernardino County is going to be doing?
Hi, Ms. Alvarado. This is Eric Batir. I can take that. So we are, the state just opened up a new testing stream for us to get test kits. And so we are getting those in place for the next school year, and we will follow the guidance as it's required as far as testing. We're in a little bit different place than LA County is as far as the number of cases. And so it's not currently required. And as you know, our board did make the decision to remain closed for the remainder of this school year, which is different than some schools in LA County, which is what's requiring them to test on a regular basis. So we will have test kits available in response to potential cases that we may get on a campus into the next school year. And we will follow the guidance that's required by.
Okay. And then I have one more question. I know we're going to be going back to school 5 days, or we still have the option of doing online. Is there any way of doing both? Is that an option?
So not at this moment, that we're not looking at that model. We are looking at the two models. So that at this very moment, not at this time, but that we actually hadn't given thought to that. So we will take that into consideration. And I saw another parent had that question as well. what we don't want to do we want to be able to offer as much in-person instruction as possible. We do believe that for the majority of the students, that's the best learning option. But we do understand that we want to have families have choices. So we hadn't thought that that would be a choice many families would want. We'll look at that and more information to come on that.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. So we're going to take a few more questions and then we're going to go and finish out the presentation. There's not that many more slides left, and then we'll finish off with questions. So Selena, I think there's a few more hands raised, and then I know there was someone in the chat who said they wanted to ask some questions. So maybe about 3 more, and then there will be another time.
Okay, perfect. Kim Zamora, you can go ahead and unmute yourself to ask your question.
Hi, how are you? I wanted to find out why, like Redland School District, the high desert schools are able to return to school, and they also did the hybrid schedules, but San Bernardino has not.
Thank you, Kim, for your question. So for San Bernardino, so it is a local decision. We are planning on offering in-person summer programs in June. And as you see, for next school year, most definitely in person. Our board made the decision to stay in distance learning, and so that's what we've been doing. But we will be offering in person starting in the summertime.
My understanding is the in-person learning for the summer are for children that are behind or students that are behind. I have a high school student who does very well academically, and I checked with this high school counselor to see if he was able to take any of the summer classes. And I was told that they would not be able to because he is not having any academic issues.
So, so thank you, Ms. Zamora. Ms. Applegate, do we have information on like for our advanced learners or maybe some enrichment programs at our high school?
Yes, our high schools are offering summer school for all students. So I will get Mrs. I'm sorry, what was your last name? I will get her information and I will look into that for her, because we are offering summer bridge, we're offering credit recovery, but we also have regular programs that we're offering as well. So
and what type of programs are those?
Kids should be able to take content classes in the core areas and some other enrichment classes as well. So I will, let me take your information and I will find out which high school so I can see.
It's Cajon.
Okay.
Yes, but it didn't still quite answer my question as to why the other schools are able to go on a hybrid and some of them went completely back, but we did not even have that option to do that. So, and I understand you said it was an individual choice, but why was that not an individual choice, but a district choice? Why was that district choice made?
Ms. Amora, it was our Board of Education's decision at the time to remain in distance learning for the rest of this year.
And what was the reasoning for that?
They were adhering to what they believed were the safest procedures and precautions at the time.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Just to add to that, Ms. Mora, as the board was considering its decision, many of our families live in multi-generational homes, and the information around COVID was constantly changing. And so, you know, we heard that elderly were getting it often. We heard people with chronic diseases were getting it often. And many of our families are people of color, and it was disproportionately hitting families of color. And so the board made the courageous decision to remain in distance learning for the remainder of the year for those reasons, and also to provide some peace of mind, because people were like, are we going to go back? Are we not going to go back? And so there was just this teeter-totter of feelings and misunderstandings. And so they stepped up, decided to remain in distance learning for the remainder of the year and get really good at it.
Okay.
And Ms. Moore, just to add to what the others have answered. So the number of cases within San Bernardino City and within our area of our school district were the highest throughout the entire county. So that's where the local context came from, as our board had to look at how is COVID in our community. So it was a little bit different than how it was in the high desert, a little bit different in Redlands. It was extremely high, almost double at times what was going on around us. So it was, they were constantly having to weigh those decisions based on the information that we were getting from public health.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. We also have Latoya Smith. Ms. Smith, you can unmute yourself to ask your question.
Thank you and good evening. I have two questions. One question deals with the students themselves in the classroom. If a child or the teacher themselves does end up getting COVID, will it be a situation where all the students will have to be quarantined and out of school for a couple of weeks? And if you decide as a parent to have your child virtual, or you have your child decide to have your child in class and you just decide to change your mind, will you have the ability to change your mind, or whatever you decided has to be set due to the amount of teachers you're trying to have in the classroom or providing instruction virtually?
I can answer that question. So as students, we know that we're at this point in time cannot offer a hybrid of distance learning and in-person learning at the same time. We can offer in-person or a virtual learning option. Students have the opportunity to go, if let's say they decide to be in a virtual academy and life circumstances happen, we have the ability of placing students back into a regular full day situation and vice versa. It really depends on case by case and family and situational needs. Hope that answers your question.
And then regarding the, if the students were, or the student or the teacher were to be infected or have COVID, I know they wouldn't tell us who had it, but would it be a situation where now the students have to be removed from school for a couple of weeks, or how would that be, how would that go about? And would that make it so that basically they don't have the education for those 2 weeks because of that?
Latoya, I can speak to the first part of that. I think we're still waiting on some guidance from the state as far as what it's going to look like when students are quarantined, should we get something in a classroom. But it would likely call for a quarantine of the students that were in that stable group. And that's why we're trying to keep the groups together. And that way, if and when we do have a confirmed COVID case, that it's a very small number of students or staff that would be impacted by a quarantine or by any type of action that public health or the school district may have to do. You know, the smaller numbers, the better off for our community at large. And then we would offer testing, and then we're waiting to see exactly what the state's gonna allow us to do with the class, what kind of educational programming they might move into. But yeah, likely it would be a quarantine and testing, or if we can get the rapid tests by then, and the science has improved by the time we reopen school where they can do rapid tests and get back into class, then that would be the option.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And then we have Candace. You can go ahead and unmute yourself to ask your question.
Hi. So my question is, I have two kids in school. I have a kindergartner who's going to be going to first grade next year, and I have a fourth grader who's supposed to be going to fifth grade next year. The first portion of my question is, my kindergartner does not do well with this whole online thing. He has gone from thriving in preschool to failing kindergarten, and on the back of his report card, or on the comment section of his report card, saying that they're going to retain him into kindergarten again. Now, I've done everything I can. Like, I literally have my son in the Monday through Friday classes with his teacher. I have 2 days of group with, I have 3 days a week with group. 2 of them are with another teacher. 2 days are with another teacher, and 2 days are with Miss Adams, or his teacher that he currently has. And he's still not flourishing. He's still failing and flunking. And I have bought different things to try to help him go along. I've done flashcards. I've actually gotten cards from the teacher where it's like the exact same cards. I printed out, I've had them laminated. I've spent hours, countless hours working with them. And he doesn't do well with this online learning thing. Are they possibly going to hold him back due to that? This whole COVID thing that happened was not his fault. But he's going to be held back for something that's not his fault. Like, I've done everything I can to try to help him, and he's just, I'm not a teacher. I'm a mom. I'm a disabled mom at that, but I'm a mom. You know, and I have always loved our teachers. You can ask any of my older kids' previous teachers. I've always loved and favored them because they can do something I can't with my kids. So is that a possibility, or are they gonna like move him up? Like, I know that they have the summer school, and I'm gonna sign my son up for the summer school to go because I don't want him to be held back. But there's people that don't feel comfortable doing that. Are they gonna hold the kids back?
We do have our director of elementary instruction here who can answer the question, but of course, retention is always the right of the parent. So the parent always has the last say in retention. And we know that some kids don't thrive with distance learning. So we do need to see how they can do and help them when they come back. And that's why we have so many different supports in place for that reason, to make sure that they have that academic and social emotional support that they're going to need when they get back in person. But I will hand it over to her so she can talk to you a little bit more about our process that needs to be followed when they're even thinking about retaining the child.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Toizon, if you'd like to address that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know if I could unmute. To your question, I'd be happy to speak with you offline if you like. However, for kindergarten, just kind of piggybacking on what Mrs. Applegate said, kindergarten, there needs to be a process in place, and it's called, one of the major things is called an agreement for a student to continue in kindergarten. So anytime we retain, we want it to be a group decision. And the good thing about first grade is the very beginning part of first grade is always looping in those standards. So making sure to going over phonics, phonemic awareness, all of that is embedded in first grade in the beginning part of the year. So I have a feeling your child will probably be able to pick that up really fast. I would be happy to speak with you if you want to ask more specific questions. I can message you and we can chat that way as well. That way we can have a conversation. I can call you.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. I really would.
Sure.
Because I'm the type of mom that's like, I have OCD. I'm a disabled mom, and I am very on top of when it comes to my kids' things. I am very involved with my kids in the school. I literally talk to the kids' teacher once a week just to make sure, before all this happened, just make sure if there's anything I can do. This is usually on a Wednesday, so I can help them improve and then start with doing things on with them during the weekend. I'm not used to my kids not thriving. And my son, he's very, very smart, very bright. He grasps onto things simply. It's just sitting in front of a monitor all day, doing repetitive things. And then he's 5. He's not, like my 9-year-old can go ahead and do it and handle it just fine. My 9-year-old is just on it. But then I have problems too with my 9-year-old where he goes and, well, that's the second part of the question. So anyways, we'll get back to the 5-year-old for now. If I can please get a hold of you somehow, if we can touch bases, I'd appreciate it so I can talk to you.
I will absolutely do that. I'll private message you right now and give you my information. That way we can connect. Okay. And I look forward to talking with you, and I know that we'll be able to work this out.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so we're getting, thank you. We're getting more hands raised, and we want to get to those hands. We do. I promise you, we will not get off until we answer all your questions that we can answer. I also want to be sure that we go through the presentation so we get everything that we wanted to share taken care of. So Selena, I think a while ago it was Mickey who had a question that they put their name in the chat. If we can unmute that individual and ask that, and then the rest of you hold We're going to come back to you, I promise. Let us just get through the rest of the presentation. Maybe your questions will be answered with that.
Yes, Dr. Menarez. Mr. Mickey Alexander, you can go ahead and unmute. Mickey Alexander.
So we'll come back. Maybe we'll see. Maybe they had some technological issues. Oh, he said he won't let me. I'll try later. Okay. All right. And hopefully, again, Mickey, maybe your question will get answered. Maybe someone else has that same question. So again, just let us go through this and then we'll come back for certain. So the last part we wanted to just try to give you an image of is what your child would experience in a school day. And so we've got some slides that kind of from the beginning of when they would board the bus, if they indeed take the bus, what that would look like in terms of safety measures, then what that would look like when they get to school. Some of this you saw in the video, but we just have some additional detailed slides. I know I've seen in the chat, there's some questions again around passing periods or recess. So that will come from your school sites, because the passing period and what it will look like at Cajon High School will be very different than the passing period at Arroyo Valley, for example. So we do want that to come from the schools, and we will ask the schools to make sure that they get that information to you as parents. That being said, the next couple of slides will just give you an overview, but some detail also about what that experience will look like for your children. And I think some of the questions you've been asking will get answered here. So we're going to go to the next slide, and we're going to start with what is transportation going to look like?
Thank you, Dr. Menarez. Good evening, everyone. I'm Janie Christakos. So I wanted to give you a quick little overview about what's going on across the nation in transportation, and then Mr. Vitir will talk about all the safety precautions we'll take once your child boards the bus. So over the last couple of years, there has been a nationwide bus driver shortage, and our transportation team has done a great job, working through that and ensuring that our students get to school. And we just want you to be aware that there is a limited fleet of buses and drivers. We have about 350 buses, including our special education buses. And we're going to do our best to minimize capacity as much as possible, and we'll continue to follow guidance as we move through next year. So I just wanted you to have that context around what is going on across the nation. And Mr. Vitir will walk you through all the safety precautions once your child gets on the bus. Eric?
Thanks, Janie. So similar to what it would look like at a school is what it'll look like for the buses. So one of the most important things that we can all do is before we leave the home, before we send our students out, is really do that self-check and determine if we're feeling okay, if we're exhibiting any COVID symptoms, if we've been exposed to anybody with COVID. And if we have been, or your child has been, then we're going to ask that you keep them home today. So really that home screening, that self-screening is going to be one of the key mitigation factors. And then face coverings, again, we're going to make sure everybody's wearing their face coverings, everybody on the bus. We will have extras in case your child forgets theirs on the bus, hand sanitizer before they board the bus. And we are planning for physically distanced seating as it allows with our nationwide shortage, depending on the number of students and the number of buses that we have. We'll make sure that the windows are kept open, weather depending, obviously, so that we can have good, adequate ventilation, and then making sure we're cleaning the buses in between. So same precautions that you'd see in a classroom setting is be the same that you would find on a bus setting. I believe I'm turning it over to Colleen now.
Good evening, everyone. Colleen Williams, Director of Student Wellness and Support Services. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about things that we know across the district that will be very similar. I hear the questions and the anxiety around what's this going to look like at my particular school, and the suggestions around a Zoom or orientation for families. So love those ideas, and we'll capture them and take them back to our principals as well. But wanted to talk a little bit about screening and monitoring process. And I know that Mr. Vatir also mentioned this, but in terms of COVID symptoms, any of those symptoms that you know, whether it's a fever or headache or runny nose and cough, you see all of our sick children there in the circle, we ask that students stay home. We are asking the same thing of our staff as well, if they have any symptoms, to stay home as well. Or if they've been exposed to anyone who is known to be COVID positive, we would want them to stay home. And then the screening process at the school looks similar to that second picture, where the student is in front of what looks like an iPad. And it's taking their temperature. We also have handheld thermometers too, to speed up lines if necessary. But those temperature screenings will occur at each of our campuses daily for staff and for students and visitors as well, should visitors need to be on campus for particular business. And then lastly, if symptoms were to develop over time when a student is on campus, the student will be sent to a location away from the rest of the students in the classrooms, and be supervised by a COVID site support liaison that we're looking to contract for. And that person will supervise them, will get a hold of family members or emergency contacts to make sure that the student is picked up and taken home as soon as possible. You and I both know that when you're ill, it doesn't feel good not to be at home. So we want your students home as soon as possible, so that they can get the care that they need from family members. And then we would provide you with recommendations. If you thought that it was COVID related, you definitely could go contact your primary care physician and get COVID testing as well. Next slide, please. I have a couple here in a row, so I'll just keep going. In terms of health measures, students at school with symptoms will be isolated and supervised, like we said, by trained staff to do so. If students are positive, they should also be quarantined at home. So not around all of their siblings or family members as much as possible, so that they don't spread the virus at home. And then in terms of returning to school, students need to ensure that there are symptom free for 7 days. So that means that they have no fever for at least a minimum of 3 days, and that you're not taking fever reducing medication that's causing the reduction in fever. And that they don't have any respiratory symptoms, and 7 days since the onset of symptoms. So a bit shorter time frame than it was at the very beginning of COVID, which is good news as well. Next slide, please. In terms of hygiene and cleaning routines, this is going to be some site-specific information in terms of schedule and time. So students have access to hand sanitizer in their classroom, and hand washing in many of our classrooms, but across the facility as well. So we are asking our school sites to look at recess schedules, breakfast schedules, lunch schedules, and align those schedules to hand washing schedules as well, to ensure that classrooms just before they eat are washing their hands with soap and water, and when they come in from recess, et cetera. So those will be site specific as far as the specific times, but we're asking it to occur throughout the day at key times where students may have an opportunity to get a little bit dirtier than normal. And so making sure that they're taken care of. And then in terms of cleaning routines, there is routine disinfecting of high touch points. High touch points are things like light switches, door handles, that come in contact with maybe multiple hands throughout the day. The thought is that if students and staff are participating in the daily screenings, and we minimize their movement throughout. They're not coming in contact with a whole bunch of people all at one time. And so they can be exposed to less folks throughout the day as well. And then those cleaning schedules of our custodian, our fabulous custodian team, doing lots of cleaning in between classes, and our night custodians really helping out as well. So thank you to that team. Next slide. Switching gears a little bit, talking about social emotional learning development and mental health supports. So wanted to give you some of the benefits to SEL. So you see those in the bubbles there. So we, whether it was pre-COVID or during COVID times, having your social emotional learning competencies actually allows students the skills and attitudes, those pro-social behaviors, how they get along with others, also can be responsible for academic gains. SEL is responsible for students being able to set goals for themselves, manage how they're doing on that goal, asking for help if they need it, knowing what their strengths are, as well as how do I deal with stressors in my life? How do I deal with anxiety? So all of those abilities and behaviors are my social emotional learning competencies. So when we return to campus during our 3 weeks of summer school, the Student Wellness and Support Services team is hard at work right now doing SEL lessons for every single day of summer school to help support our students in developing and enhancing those coping strategies, especially as they're coming back into the physical setting, and working with their peers and developing those tight relationships with peers and staff as well, letting them know that the staff is here and excited that students are back. We're just as giddy as your students may be as well, to get them back into classrooms. And then in the fall, when we come back, we are looking at launching social emotional learning lessons across the district. We have bought a digital curriculum version of a paper curriculum that we've had just for counselors. So we are launching that across with teachers as well, where students will benefit from social emotional learning lessons. And each site will do it differently. Some are doing it during their behavior schedule time when they teach students the universal expectations of be safe, be respectful, be responsible. Some are doing it during their advisory time. Some are doing it during their social studies time. So it's completely dependent upon how it works within each of our school sites. But those lessons will be available and teachers will be trained beforehand. And then we'll have available for your students, should they need it, a small group instruction, small group intervention for anxiety and depression, as well as other SEL opportunities or gaps, so that they can get the support that they need there. And then we have a wealth of services to provide mental health therapy for students, should they need that level of support as well. The Swiss Heart Team is available and can provide those mental health therapy services, as well as our community partners like Victor Community Support Services and Uplift Family Services as well. So all families have to do is ask, and we can refer you for those services. They are in most cases free for the majority of our families. So we definitely want to make sure that your students have the support that you believe that they need, and that will make them ultimately successful academically as well as in their social emotional world. Thank you. I think I am handing it to Sandra, Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you there, Ms. Colleen. So next slide, please. So many of you are probably asking, when school comes back into session, will we have caps? Yes, we will. We will have caps. It may look a little different because we do need to adhere to the safety guidelines set forth by the County Department of Public Health, or the California Department of Public Health. So more information will come as we have that as far as cohorting of students, but caps will be offered during the school year. Next slide, please. Selena?
So back to those. Go ahead, Selena.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and see if Mickey Alexander is able to unmute now. Mickey, there you
Yes,
go.
I'm here. Thank you for being patient with me today.
Thank you for your patience.
First, I want to say thank you for even giving everybody an outlet to be able to have these conversations within the community. So thank you for that. Much appreciated. You just answered my CAPS question, so I'll move on from that. I have about 4 questions, so I'll just ask my questions and you guys can take notes and just answer them later. So my first one is around summer school. Will the same safety precautions be implemented in summer school since it is a short day? I'm hoping it will, especially when we're dealing with class size. We didn't address that. I saw that the desks were moved back within the 6 feet, I think it was. It could have been 3, I'm not sure. So will the class size be changing? My next question and/or statement is the parent choice. I saw a lot of questions and concerns around the hybrid one. So please make sure, if you guys can, revisit that one, because I really think that the community wants that. My next question is around allergies. Personally, my child has allergies and sneezes all the time, especially right now with the weather changing. So how will that be addressed? Because I know a lot of people, you see them in public, you see them sneeze or cough, and you're like, oh my goodness, do you have COVID? So just making sure that we address those issues and/or problems correctly. And then my last question is around teachers. Will teachers have the choice, just like parents have the choice, whether they're coming back to school or not? And if we haven't asked them that question, you guys, I'm pretty sure you guys did prior, because I saw the survey prior. However, since we're all going back later on in August, I think it is, will that be addressed with teachers also if they want to come back or not? Because I know the board strictly said they want to make sure that the teachers had a choice also. Thank you very much for your time today, and I appreciate and look forward to your answers.
Okay, thank you, Mickey. So I think I got most of them. Well, I know I did. One of them wasn't so much a question though, the one about hybrid, it was more like, please consider it. So noted. So the first question you asked was about summer school, and are those same safety precautions going to be in place? And they are. And so again, the expectations of the mask wearing, the hand sanitizing, and then keeping the social distancing. So we're not going to, but in terms of your question or kind of your comment about class size, that is a negotiated item. And so we would have to work with our unions on that. But what we can say is that we will follow the guidance from the state around the number of the space that's required, and then whatever we have to do in class size to make that happen, we will. So that's a negotiated item though. So that's the first question or first response in terms of your question on summer school. Allergies, and I saw quite a few parents saying, yes, my child has allergies as well. So we're not trying to, and I understand that, you know, if you're out in public and you sneeze, everyone turns now, right? Like, oh my gosh, is that COVID? And that's just kind of the way we've been trained right now. Unfortunately, we'll get to a place of some normality around all of this. But the COVID liaison that Ms. Williams mentioned, so every school is going to have a person that's going to be on campus who is a health person. So this is a new position we're going to create just for this time period. It's not going to be long-term. So we're calling them a COVID liaison, and that individual, their sole responsibility is going to be to be the one who knows, would this be a potential COVID or is this an allergy? And so, and that's not just the only thing they're going to do, but they're going to be our liaison around COVID. So that we're hoping that will help the parents to know that we will have someone who is an expert in the field of health to be able to distinguish an allergy versus a true sickness, meaning COVID. And then your last question around teacher choice, I'm actually going to ask Dr. Funches to speak to that. He's our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources.
Good evening, and thank you, Dr. Menards. I'll try to address that question very briefly around our educators coming back to work. We do need our teachers, as you can guess. We need our teachers to come back to work. In terms of choice, we will involve our educators in the negotiation process with their union groups around opportunities for virtual or in-person teaching. And that's that will be the extent of some of the decision making around involving our educators in that process. However, we also will survey them just about our return to work and our reopening processes that we are getting underway with. So their voice is important, but we need our educators back to work with our scholars. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Funches. We have Rosa Jimenez. Rosa Jimenez, if you can unmute yourself.
Sí, buenas tardes.
Hola, good
Mi
afternoon.
pregunta sería que si uno opta por el otra vez el estudio a distancia,
So if somebody
¿serán igual
would,
combinados? Por ejemplo, la misma maestra va a ser para los que estén en
okay, so if somebody chooses to,
presencial y en computadora.
okay, to go for online studies, will it be the same teacher that teaches them and also in the classroom?
So students will have, at this point in time, either they're in distance learning and they will have their same teacher, or if they come to school full time, they have a teacher. So we will not have a teacher teaching both at this particular point in time.
So en este momento, pues hay solamente dos opciones, o estudios a distancia o
Y ya
estar
en
en
un
la
dado caso
clase.
que también tenga uno la opción de decidir de que ellos vuelvan a regresar también con un diferente maestro, ¿verdad?
So they also have an option to be able to, for distance learning.
I'm sorry. ¿Qué era su pregunta otra vez? No lo entendí.
Si en un dado caso que a la hora que nosotros estamos en una aprendizaje a distancia, queremos optar por volverlos a regresar, también entonces cambiarían de maestro.
So the question is, if they decided, if let's say they started in a distance learning situation and they wanted to go back into a full, go to school every day or vice versa, would they have the same teacher? And the answer is no. You would be actually changing and going back to a teacher that's teaching full time. Es decir, no va a tener la misma maestra porque es una diferente programa. Los maestros no van a estar enseñando los dos opciones, solamente uno. Los maestros están en las clases de distancia o las clases en persona. So the teachers will either be in distance or they will be in person.
Ok, muchas gracias.
De nada, gracias por su pregunta.
Thank you. Up next, we're going to have Alejandra on Alejandra's iPhone. You can go ahead and unmute.
Hi, good afternoon. My question is, I have a child that has asthma. So my concern is the cleanliness of the school and how the restrooms are going to be sanitized. And I understand, I think I understood that that is going to be based on the school that she's going to be going to. She's supposed to start middle school. So now my concern is going to be passing periods. How are those going to be taken care of? And I would suggest that, you know, before you guys send out the survey, as far as if I want her to go back to in school or online, if we can find out how exactly that's going to be taken care of.
Alejandra, I think I can maybe can.
Go ahead.
I want to say that your statement about the asthma was related to the cleaning or the products. Is that?
Well, the products that are being used, and to make sure that the school is gonna, like the classroom is gonna be sanitized, because I mean, my understanding is that middle school, they have like 7 classes. So, I mean, we haven't really been explained how that's gonna work. If they're gonna be in one class all day if they're going to be going to different classes. And like I said, this coming year would be her first year in middle school. So I mean, my concern is because she has asthma, you know, all the passing periods, all the students she's going to be around, and the sanitation of the school.
Alejandra, thank you so much. Point made. It's very clear, and there's quite a few parents that are saying you need to know more details specific to your school before you can make a decision about what you will do for your child. So we are taking note of that. Not only do these town halls give you information, they remind us of the details that we need to do for you as families so you can make a decision that is most comfortable for you. So we will make sure that we'll work with our principals to figure out a timeline where they can meet with their families, share their details before we ask you to make a final decision, okay? So we'll work on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure because honestly, my child is not a distance learning child. She needs to be in class. So I really do need her in class, but the concern of her health, you know, keeps coming up as, you know, how is the classroom going to be sanitized? So before, you know, I'm asked to fill out the survey, you know, I need the questions answered.
And know that what you did see in the video, if you were on during the video, that, and I think that's what Mr. Vitti was going to share. I think we lost him for a moment there. What we know about that is children with allergies and asthma, that will not impact them. That's why we chose that. So it won't be that part of it. But I also heard that you also want to know the passing periods and the interactions there. So point taken, and I think many parents are in agreement with you. So thank you.
Dr. Benares? This is Colleen. Sorry to interrupt. I would make a strong suggestion. If the parent actually can leave me their information, their student's name, I can have the assigned school nurse reach out to them as well, and we can talk about the specifics of their asthma case and what's necessary for that student. That might calm some nerves and answer some questions as well.
Thank you, Colleen.
And I put Colleen's email in the chat for that parent if they want to email her.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to check with Miss Erica Fortuna Huizar. She had her hand up and it went down. Erica, are you still here? Did you still have a question?
Yes, the question, thank you for getting to me. My question, I had actually put it in the chat as well. It was pretty much just, my daughter's gonna be going to middle school. She's gonna be a 6th grader and she will be having the 7 classes. And I was just kind of curious in regards to that, how that will look. Will they still be having the 7 classes, passing periods? And that was pretty much my question.
Thank you, Erica. So those questions we will bring, we're watching for some guidance from the state. We do believe that's the case, but we will bring more for sure information on the May 10th. So please come back on the May 10th and we should be able to answer that for you.
Awesome, thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. There's quite a few who have asked that. So that question we're including in the educational program. We understand that that's not what you want to hear right now. We don't have all the answers totally yet. And we're trying not to have to change course on you too much. So thank you for your patience as we work through all of this.
Thank you. We have Alyssa Sanchez next. Alyssa, do you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question?
Hello, actually, I'm her grandmother, Adeline Garcia. I just have her information to Zoom. So my question is, Alyssa has a learning disability. She has her IEHP, and I'm very concerned, because she dropped in math and literature, English, a little bit. And she didn't do virtual learning very well. And I am just so worried. Now, when she goes to 7th grade, she's going to Serrano. I would very much appreciate a town hall from, you know, the staff or whomever to help us. I doubt if, you know, we can go in person and ask questions. So that would be very helpful. This is her first time going to middle school. And another thing, I want to IEP right away. She's had one since kindergarten, 1st grade. And is there going to be backups on that? Because I want the teachers to know her right away. I want her to start rocking because she needs to catch up. And I appreciate all the school's efforts. I've always appreciated everyone's help with her. She's wonderful, but she did run into little problems with this, as a lot of our children did. And so is the IEPs going to be available, or I'll be able to find out with the principal there at the school, or will we be able to make appointments physically, or how is that going to happen? Because she needs that help right away. 7th grade now, 7th classes, and oh my gosh, there's a lot of work to do on my behalf, her behalf. And so how is that going to pan out? I appreciate your answers.
Yes, it's Dr. Lundy. And I'm very familiar with Alyssa. I was her principal, so I know that she is a good student. So actually, if she currently has an IEP, so we can definitely schedule a meeting immediately to start talking about her need. But in addition, we have meetings scheduled with each of our middle schools for students that are transitioning. So we have all of their testing information as well as a list from their current teachers. So we're going to be talking with the incoming school so that they know all about Alyssa. So I also have my coordinator of secondary services online. And so she's working with each of the middle schools and the elementary schools to make sure that the matriculation from elementary to middle is actually happening. And we're going to be speaking specifically about each student. But as it relates to Alyssa specifically, as well as any students on IEP, we have a number of services. So during our summer program, we can have services for her, as well as we have additional tutoring supports. So I've already actually, from your question earlier, asked my coordinator to look you up. So she's going to contact you following this meeting to make sure that she connects with you as well as with Alyssa, and we'll make sure that she gets whatever she needs. And that's not just for Alyssa. So if there's any students who have IEPs or we feel like they're struggling, we have a lots of resources already in place. So your first point of contact would be your school site, and I have a special education contacts at each school site to answer those questions for your principal, and we want to make sure that no student, for lack of a better word, is left behind. So we have a number of resources available, and we definitely will contact you tomorrow. And that goes for any parent as well. If you want to put your name in the chat, we have my whole team is online, and they can reach out to you as well. I hope that answers.
Okay. Yes, thank you so much. I don't know if you see the little heart to all of you helping us, you know, because it's our kids and it's not their fault that this happened, you know? And so thank you so much. I'll be waiting for a call and we'll get her to get back up there. Hopefully a lot of kids will get back up there.
And if you could tell her I said hello as well, because.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
And I did want to remind our viewers, I know that we have many questions around instruction and learning recovery and those questions. And just a reminder that on May 10th, we will be bringing you specific details about how we're going to ramp up initial instruction, how we're going to provide intervention, extended learning opportunities. We're pulling out all the stops for all of our kids. So we just want to let you know that we'll be bringing more information on that on May 10th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have someone that I think is on their phone, Galaxy S20 Plus 5G. If you can go ahead and unmute to ask your question.
Hello, my name is Mr. Garcia. Yeah, so I have a concern about students with household members that are struggling with pre-existing health problems. We have a family member that has cancer, so he can't be exposed to anything right now. So you did mention about social learning, and just wanted to see if that was still, would that be an option for the whole year or until the pandemic ends? Because I'm pretty sure some of the household members have family members with cancer or what have you. Would that be an option to, or would that be a good reason for a student not to continue going to school?
Yes, I'm sorry, you said your first name and then I forgot, or was it Mr. Garcia? I
Yes,
apologize.
yeah.
Okay, Mr. Garcia, yes, we will have a, we're calling it a virtual academy, but that's our distance learning option for next school year. And families do have that option. You're a prime example of why we want to be sure that we offer that to our families, because we don't know every family's circumstance, right? So your circumstance calls for the opportunity for your child or children to be in a distance learning. And so we plan on offering that all next year. And so come back on May 10th so you can get more details on that. But do know that that is an option for you.
Okay. Also, if it's safe for everybody, let's say the pandemic ends through mid school year from social learning, we do have the option to send the students back to school, right? Or would they be stuck in virtual learning for the remaining of the year?
So that will be part of the detail that we'll bring back to you on May 10th so that you can make a sound decision. Okay?
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will be from Dion Upshaw. Can you go ahead and unmute so you can ask your question?
Hello, good evening. So, well, can you hear me? Because
yes, we can hear you.
Okay, well then good evening. Anyway, so my question is regarding discipline, because I know that like I have two high schoolers and they're doing well academically, but I also know their friends. And so when it comes down to like the discipline, is there like a standard discipline measure that will be taken in terms of masks being worn and what happens when those masks are not being worn? And then because I remember high school, I'm just curious about, you know, the makeout sessions and stuff like that. Like I'm serious, like, because like I don't want nobody coming home saying, hey, I was hanging out with so-and-so who was over there with so-and-so. And now my kid is sick because other people were disobeying the rules. And I know everything can't be watched, but I'm wondering if there's going to be a standardized discipline list that comes out saying, if your child or if so-and-so is doing this, this is what the routine will be to deal with that.
So I'll answer that. That's a great question. And that has crossed my mind many, many times. As a former high school principal, seeing kids walking around, I know exactly what you mean. So, you know, we have to be real careful around the mask situation, because what we don't want is for it to turn into a situation where, you know, we're wearing a mask and then it ends, or not wearing a mask, and then it ends up that we have bad interactions between students and security officers and students and teachers, and really just kind of blowing up into something that we never intended it to be. Mm-hmm. And so, and knowing that they're going to be squirrely, right? Trust me, I know. And so, you know, really kind of looking at it, it's a safety measure. We want to keep everybody safe, and that's what we're going to keep stressing. Now, we know that there might be some students who like to push the envelope. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we have a system of protocols called progressive discipline around what that looks like. And that is, you know, continuing to prompt, modeling. There's a long list of it, but it'll get to a point where then we have students who are just being defiant. And so then we will treat that as defiance and not necessarily about not wearing the mask. So we have to be real careful about what that looks like, because we don't want to put a situation where we have students and school police and just a bunch of drama over something that was really small to start with. And so that really goes to building relationships with our students so that they know this isn't about, pushing it to the next level just so that you can show off to your friends, but really this is about keeping yourself and your friends and your community safe. Now, as far as the other piece of it, where kids are going to be kids, and many kids have boyfriends and girlfriends who parents never even know about, and that's where they see them at school because they don't see them at home. And so we just have to make sure that we have supervision. All of our middle schools and high schools do have campus security that are on bikes that go around the campus. Again, when there's a will, there's a way. And so I can't say with 100% certainty that that won't happen, but we're going to do our best to make sure that students are following those protocols. Our principals and teachers, security officers, counselors, who go out to help out with supervision, we try to keep it like, try to joke around with them, just again, to preserve that relationship. But really, it's not necessarily about the discipline. It's about keeping kids safe. And we want to make sure that we're really talking to that, because it's not always about, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get in trouble. It's like, we're talking about, getting sick and possibly infecting others. So it really goes back to just building a community around common understanding and treating, high school kids as young adults and having that rapport and relationship with them to convince them to do the right thing. It's possible, definitely possible, not easy. But yeah, I've been pondering that a lot. I really have. Great question.
I knew somebody had to ask it, is what it came down to. but thank you.
Thank you for the question. And thanks for just kind of keeping it lighthearted, because, what are you going to do? You got 16, 17-year-olds with their own mind, and they think they know it all. And sometimes they don't want to listen, but, that's where we come in as those caring adults to really try to influence their decisions and help them to do the right thing.
Yes. Makes you want to say amen. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I have Montika. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. Sorry if I mispronounced your name.
No, that's fine. Quick question. My daughter will be attending Cajon, and Cajon is a large campus. So how would we do the distancing on that particular campus? Are you guys going to cut down the enrollment, or is it going to be staggered classes? How is that going to work?
Montika, thank you for your question. Ms. Bishop actually stayed on a meeting with us last week, and we're going to work very closely specifically with Cajon because it is so large, and because Arroyo Valley is almost as large, but the layout of the campus is very different, right? So we will be coming back with that, and you can count on, and we'll work with Ms. Bishop to help do this, a meeting. Well, all the schools, we're going to work with our principals to offer a meeting specific to the school for the families, so you can get that detailed information. And so more to come on that. But again, we won't ask you to make any final decision until we work with our schools to make sure that they can give you the information you need, and then we'll ask for that decision. Might be a short time window. We might only give you a week to decide, but you'll have the information you need in order to decide.
Okay, I have one more question while I'm on. What about the restroom situation? Because I came on late. Did they discuss that, how that's going to work, how they're going to sanitize and keep the restrooms going?
We did, but I'll let Mr. Vitier. Mr. Vitier, you want to speak to that for Monica and any other parent who came on late?
Yeah, I can speak to it as 50,000 foot view as we can, knowing that each campus has different restroom capacities and situations. So we know those are commonly traveled areas and high touch points. So if there's, 3 or 4 stalls that are right next to each other, they'll be marked out to ensure there's distance between them. And then that'll be part of the work that we're doing with our custodial teams, is to work out the schedules as far as cleaning to make sure that those high touch point areas, restrooms and doorknobs and stuff that people touch more frequently than others are cleaned more frequently. So more to come on that. But it is, a high priority that we keep everything as clean as possible. And that's going to be on all of us. It's going to be on the kids that are in the restrooms to make sure they're washing their hands. We will have hand sanitizer dispensers in every single classroom. So there'll be plenty of opportunity to make sure that our hands are clean before we start touching stuff.
Thank you. I know I had Candace in the chat saying she had another question. Candace, did you still need to ask your question?
Yeah, it was really quick. I was going to ask it earlier, but kind of got a little interrupted there. My 4th grader who's going into 5th grade at the school that he's at, he, in typical 4th graders when they went into 5th grade, the 5th graders were doing more hands-on, more group activities. They were learning to, do projects with their groups and different things. And how are we going to be able to have the kids still doing group activities, but keeping them safe from being exposed?
I can answer that. So we are going to make sure, and actually our schools do make sure that students will have their own supplies. So they will not be sharing. That includes the hand-on things like the manipulatives they may use or the science materials that they use. So we will not be sharing those items.
So when it comes down to each individual item, they're all going to have their own? Because I mean, funding for particular items have always been really short. And now with everything that's going on, are the schools going to be able to fund it, or do the parents have to provide some of the things?
So we've already begun buying and making sure that we have those things, but part of the guidelines, Mr. Vitir, you can help me make sure I word this correctly, but part of the guidelines is making sure that we are not sharing items. So that is what we are making sure to prepare to have ready for our students when they come back.
Right.
And each one of our elementary schools was outfitted with individual cubbies for each student now, so that anything they may bring with them goes into the cubbies and not shared amongst the desk areas. So we're really trying to, again, minimize those touch points, minimize the manipulatives that the students would have, just to cut down on that. So between our educational services side of the district and our support side, we've really tried to, go into a classroom and envision it from the different grade levels and say, what can we do to prevent the touch points? The devices, students have their own devices, so we know that they don't need to share that at school. So all those little things we've really tried to think about, but definitely open to feedback. As you come across things, just let us know.
Okay, I appreciate it, because I'm really worried about that, because before the pandemic, it was really, we had to supply a lot of materials that our students needed. And I mean, as long as there's enough timing, so if you're able to tell me, oh, next month we need this, this, and this, that gives me, someone who's literally on a fixed income, who doesn't have much as it is, to plan and go forward with it. Like, okay, well, I know I have to budget to have this affordability, to be able to buy these items. Is there going to be something like that in place, or do we have to just have money saved up just in case it's last minute? Oh, we need this next week type of thing.
Candace, parents will not have to provide for so that students have what they need. You will not have to do that. So you don't need to plan for it. We make sure that the schools have what they need, and that the parents don't have to do that. So every student will have their individual supply of items, and it's probably a matter of communicating between the teacher and the school, but you will not have to do that. So if that comes to you, then you just go to the principal, and then the principal will help you, because that's not to happen.
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because the groups and everything needed, it's a lot to plan, and it's hard to have everything situated and settled.
Understood. Thank you for your question.
Ms. Latoya Smith?
Hi, thank you again. I had a question regarding, because I heard the statement that getting with the school site so that they can get the information out for the to the parents. And I was wondering, since this has been an amazing opportunity for us parents getting information as the district from a whole, will each site also be having its own town hall meeting? And also possibly, I know it might be a lot of work for everyone to do it, but possibly having a video for what it's like to be a high school student going to classes, what it's like for a middle school student to go into classes, and the same thing for the elementary students. So this will give us parents and also the kids who might be anxious or nervous about going to a new school, because now, you know, they went a year without being in the school that they were at and now going to a new school level and environment, so that parents would have the opportunity to be able to know what's going on, as well as putting the kids at ease. And then my other question was regarding the cleanliness. Like, are the students going to be still doing PE together as a group and using the computer lab as a group, or is it going to be a situation where that's kind of off limits right now because of the having to always clean or make sure that the area is well sanitized?
So Latoya, good to see you. I'll answer your first part of your question about the like a school town hall or whatever, you know, that's come up quite a few times. So what we will do, the principals are probably going to be throwing eggs at me right now as I say this, but we're going to work with them. We're going to find out from them when's a timeline that would work for them to be able to plan it, to do it well. There's a lot that goes into it. But we will work with them to have something for each school. We'll support them in that. So watch for something to come out from your schools. And to your point, students who are transitioning to a different school, we're gonna have to message this, so we'll communicate this, you know, both at the school level and then broadly, so that you know if your child's transitioning, for example, to Serrano, when's Serrano's town hall going to be, right? So that you can log into that. So we will work on that again before we ask you to make a decision. And then, oh, and you had asked about a video. Cannot promise that. That part I can't promise. Our schools might be able to do it. It won't be like what our communications department does, right? They are at a different, they just have different tools, but we will definitely get you what you need so that you can make an informed decision.
Dr. Menares?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm interrupting. This is Colleen. I just wanted to add that the student wellness team is working on a training for students to inform them of what the new procedures will look like. And so there will be a video component of that in that presentation to orient students to what does the daily temperature screening look like, and how do I wear a mask, and all of those precursory pieces before summer school. And then also we'll have it available for the fall as well. So we're doing some of that piece for the teams, for the schools.
Thank you, Colleen. To the second part of your question though, which I actually forgot it because I knew I didn't have the detailed answer. Oh, it was about the changing of PE clothes, and I think that, no, it was around cleanliness, I recall that. Can you ask that question again, the second part, Latanya?
No problem. It's just that I have a second grader, and so sometimes they do PE together. They also do the computer lab, and they go there. And so I was wondering, are they going to be continuing to do that? And if so, is that going to be a situation where it's cleaned like often, considering that, you know, kids and germs? And then also, if not, is there going to be some kind of other PE that's given to them in lieu of that, because of, you know, all the different toys and different sportswear that they use when they're out there doing PE?
So I can take a crack at the first part of the second question. So we know in the COVID environment, the guidance that we have right now is that the best course of action we can all take, whether it's schools or businesses or community, is to keep our groups small. That way, if there is a COVID case, the number of people that have to be notified, potentially quarantined, potentially exposed is smaller. And so what we're doing is looking at all the movement that happens on campuses, right? Probably our elementary schools are the place where there's least amount of movement. They're in one place most of the day. It's when you get into our secondary, middle school, high schools where there's, you know, the passing periods and the changing of classes and locker rooms. And So those are the things that we're really looking at with all of our schools and following the guidance that is changing on a weekly basis. You know, we went from 6 feet to 3 feet. Now they're talking about, you know, even less than that. And so we're really just following the guidance, following the science, trying to see what's best for our district and our community. So that is part of the work that's going on now, is to see, you know, that there's guidance around having the teachers rotate, keeping the kids in one place, having the teachers come to them, not having the communal spaces, the locker rooms and the lunch rooms open. That way you have, you know, you don't have multiple groups of students moving through those areas. So those are all the details that we know you want answers to, and frankly, so do we. And we're waiting on all that guidance to come out so that we can figure out what that's going to look like for us. So maybe not a full answer that you wanted, but it's because we're still working through all of that as well.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
And then we have 2 more hand raised. Ms. Carol Mesa.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Can, thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you. I'm just gonna go over my points just really quick. If any of you can answer, I appreciate it. If not, it's fine, since I already know we already passed the 8 o'clock. The first one is basically hopefully a yes or no question. Will kids be retained, yes or no? Also, dual teachers for us parents that have kids in the both dual English Spanish classrooms. I know they mentioned that if we are gonna have our kids participating in class in person full time, and the other parents that want to stay as an online learning, I know you guys mentioned that there's only gonna be one teacher for, you know, the in-person and one teacher for the online. In our particular school, which is Hillside, I know that there's only one first grade teacher who does Spanish and the English, the one who takes care of that program for each particular grade. So how is that gonna work if there's only one teacher? How are you guys gonna split the online and the in-person if you guys only have one teacher? Staying home. What about, I know you guys are like really strict on the absence of students when, you know, they have very excessive absences. What is going to happen if a child is exposed to COVID and he or she does have to get quarantined? How is that going to work out if the child has to be quarantined? Hopefully not too much, you know, very often, but what is going to happen? I mean, I'm pretty sure if the child does get quarantined, I mean, are you guys gonna have the child going to online learning those 7 to 14 days? If so, then they're gonna have a different teacher. But then when they go back to class, they're gonna have a different teacher. How is that gonna work? Thank you.
So we will be addressing more of our instructional program issues on May 10th, but I do want to reiterate that retention is absolutely the final choices, that of the parent. We are not retaining students based on COVID hardships. The student study teams at the schools do get together with the administrators and the teachers and the parents to look at each individual student to see what the needs are. And so any retention decision should be made around that, which is our regular protocol. And then also, as far as the dual language program goes, you're absolutely right. We will have to work with Dr. Funches and HR to see what the availability is for dual language teachers to be able to teach online. So that is something that we'll have to explore a little bit further depending on the teachers that we have available to do that. But of course, we will try to provide that program to the best extent possible.
Thank you. Anything on the quarantining of the students?
So what we are looking at is if there is a chance that a student or a class may be going to quarantine because of a COVID case, we will have that class go into a distance learning model where they will get their instruction either through packet or through live instruction through the computer. But students won't be missing out on their daily instruction because of a quarantine situation.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Just to add to that, yes, I do know that you mentioned that, but my question was, if yes, we do not want the child to miss out on the instruction, but you guys mentioned that when they do go into the online learning, it will be a different teacher. So if the child goes into online learning because he or she does have to quarantine, he's going to go into online learning with a teacher, but then when he goes back into a classroom, when he's out of, danger out of quarantine, he's going to go back to his own teacher. So how is that going to really work out from going from one teacher to another? Thank you.
So if the whole class is quarantined, then the teacher that is their teacher is going to teach the class. So they will kind of go as a unit. If a student and the whole class is not, then we would treat that just like, you know, any other situation where the student would get makeup work from that teacher, and then when they're better, they can come back to school. So that isn't necessarily classified as like the virtual learning. They're just out sick. And so we would use our regular protocol to help students who, you know, if they're out sick, we give them the work, they return, they turn it back in, and they should be fine. They'd be getting that from their same teacher.
Thank you. That would be all. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Miss Kathleen V.
Hi, okay, so I had a couple of questions. The first was contact tracing. If there is a student who attends one school and they say they end up positive, but they have siblings that attend another school site, will those students at the other school sites be staying home as well? And if so, would their classmates now be quarantining as well? And then my other question was for school lunches. For students who are going to remain in distance learning, will the school lunches be continued to be provided? And then I just wanted to say thank you for this information tonight.
I'll start with your welcome. As you can see, it's a lot for us, and we appreciate your guys' patience. And many, if not all of us are parents too. And so we wear dual hats as we work through this. So thank you guys for your patience with us. On your quarantine question. So we do have the protocols that we follow, and I don't want to get into all the details on this meeting, but it will depend on who the student is that is positive and what their impact is with the other kids, either in their home or in their classroom. And we will work with public health to determine on an individual person-to-person basis what the actions would be, whether they need to be quarantined, isolated, and what that might look like, and then work with those respective schools, as you said, with siblings, to make sure that notifications are done for those schools that student would need educational material as well. So those are handled on an individual basis, because we don't want to blanket what we're doing, because we know this pandemic affects individuals differently, and there's time and contact and distance requirements for quarantining. So we will investigate each one of those as an individual case and make those determinations during the course of those interviews with the families and the students to determine who needs what type of action taken.
Eric, there is a question that Ms. Jenkins asked early in the chat, and it's around families going out of town or out of state or out of the country. Is asking, are schools going to require or at least ask families to report these trips? Also ask the student to perhaps stay home for 7 to 10 days, because recently someone had a situation where a student went out of state and was around a relative who was diagnosed with COVID after they returned home, and that student was around several other students who then had to be tested. It's a huge concern of hers, and definitely a topic that needs to be addressed on how the district will handle.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Rodriguez. I did answer that in the chat, but I'll answer verbally. So we will follow the guidance that comes from the California Department of Public Health as it relates to travel bans, travel questioning, travel restrictions. Currently, those have been relaxed as our state moves out of the widespread and even moderate tiers of COVID. So goes all the restrictions, right? At some point, our hopes is that we're all back to what normal looked like before COVID. And so as the COVID cases go away, as vaccines go up, the restrictions go down as well. And so currently there's not that requirement about reporting travel and must stay in the state and all of that. And so there's not going to be any requirement for us as a school district to question our students as it relates to that. Now, should that change, should cases go up, or should we get additional guidance from California Department of Public Health, then we would definitely follow their lead in that.
There was another question in the chat about parents needing information for students who are going to be going to from middle school to high school. If the high school said that the information was not ready yet, how will those parents get that information? Our high schools will be working on creating a bridge program to acclimate incoming ninth graders to the campus and giving them tours and having them actually visit, walking through, simulating their schedules. So the high school will be reaching out to those students as we get closer to the beginning of the school year.
Thank you. We have Miss Carmen Schieber. Carmen, did you want to go ahead and unmute so you can ask your question, please?
Hi, thank you for letting me just speak. My question is, I work at Shannon Hills Middle Schools, but the thing is I do not know if we are going to be screened. I work at a rate.
I think I can take that one. Carmen, I believe you're a district employee, am I correct?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, thank you for the work that you do for our district. We're very much glad that you're here tonight listening to the information. If you do enter one of our campuses or your workplace, there will be #1 pre-screening for yourself that you need to do from home first. And then once you get to the work site, we'll do the temperature checks as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I already got the shots.
Okay.
So I already told my principal.
Gotcha. Carmen, we look forward to seeing you back and supporting the work that we need to do to get our community back into our schools. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. I also volunteer.
Okay.
Okay, my thing is, when I was going to a school to help out, I know for a fact that each desk is going to be sanitized every time that the kid moves out of the classroom. And they also have their own boxes full of their own stuff.
We got it, yeah. Appreciate that knowledge and information, and we'll make sure we move forward cautiously. Thank you, Carmen.
You're welcome. And then my other thing is my daughter, she goes to Cohon High School. She used to be an A student, but now she's an F student because of the computers. And the teachers, when she tried to email them, they will not email them back. She's having problems.
So Carmen, have you emailed any counselor at the school side or administrator about your concern?
I don't know any of the counselors.
Okay, we have your name here and you're a district employee. We'll make sure that someone circles back to you this evening with an email for any next steps, or maybe you can contact us and talk through it with us.
Okay, because I just want to find out why they're not emailing back.
Understood. Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you. We have Ms. Phillips and then Davis family after that. Ms. Phillips, you want to go ahead and unmute so you can ask your question?
Thank you, Selena. Good evening, everyone. We've had a couple of parents attend IEPs over at King, and their students are currently 8th graders. And the parents are asking us about how can they get their student in the summer school for high school. We've contacted Arroyo Valley and been told that Arroyo Valley is not prepared to give the parents the information because their program is not ready to go. So we want to know, how can we be that bridge for parents, because they're asking us for the information because they're having those conversations with us in those meetings. So we just want to be able to give them whatever information or links are necessary since we already have that relationship with those parents, to get them the information to get their babies enrolled for summer school for incoming 9th graders.
So I don't know that that question is specific for IEPs, but just if I could chime in a little bit for your students who are in special education that are going, and if they don't specifically have ESY, then they will be added to the regular summer school. And I know the high school principals are diligently working to get the program up and running. So we've shared a document for our special education students on the different supports. And so whatever supports they have in place with you, once we realize which students are being enrolled, then we will try to provide those same supports for them at the actual high school. But they are correct because they are trying to put themselves into place. And I know the high school principals just met last week, and they're probably within the next week will be ready to give that information. But if it's specific to a student with an IEP, we can help to bridge that gap for you with the actual department as well.
And good evening, everyone. This is Sudha Venkatesan, Director for Secondary Education. Along with Dr. what Lundy mentioned, all the incoming 9th graders will be eligible to participate in a 9th grade bridge program that is offered at every comprehensive high school in San Bernardino City Unified School District. From some schools, you might have already received some information, and some other schools, like Arroyo has, one of the parents mentioned here, they are working on the information so they can actually send out flyers. The communication will be sent from the school sites, because each high schools have a different way on how they are conducting the bridge program. But one assurance is all the 9th grade, 8th grade students currently who are going into 9th grade next year in any one of the comprehensive schools will be participating or have an opportunity to participate in the bridge program.
Thank you. And we have one more question from Davis family. Please unmute so you can go ahead and ask your question. Are they still on? Davis family, I believe. Do you want to go ahead and unmute so you can ask your question?
It's Patricia Davis, yeah.
Patricia Davis. I don't know if she's on anymore.
Yes, I am. I'm on.
There we go. Thank you.
Yes, I was concerned about the library. Since there will be, the students won't be sharing anything. How will that work?
Hi, Ms. Davis. I'll take a best crack at that answer as we can. So there are ways that the students can get books, and that's some of that individual site planning that we're going to ask our schools to do to determine how that best might look, whether or not they can virtually visit the library and pick the books out, or if they can go in small groups and pick their books out. And if there's going to be any type of return procedures as far as the books have to sit for a couple days before they can go back on the shelves and stuff. Those are all the weeds, if you will, that we're really working on with our individual school sites on how they'll manage education in a COVID environment on a day-to-day basis.
See, because I've had problems in the past because I work in the library, and that's why I brought it up. 3 years I've gotten pink eye. This was pre-COVID. And, I've seen students put their finger in their nose and then hand me a book. And so, I'm really concerned about that. I'm really concerned about that because I've had pink eye for 3 years straight at the same time each year. And my eyes were burning and everything. And I'm saying, what's really going on? And I've never gotten pink eye before. And I said, what's really going on? And then COVID hit, and I'm wondering, what am I going to do now?
So we will definitely, there was a parent who asked about the library as well. So we are actually going to be visiting some other school districts that have opened. We'll find out what they're doing, and we'll get some protocols in place, okay? Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
So Dr. Monares, we are at 8:24 and we want to be respectful of everyone's time. We stayed on a little longer. We had a lot of great questions. We are looking forward to having our next town hall on May 10th. And many of the questions that you were asking today will be answered there as we talk about what the classrooms are going to look like, what the schedules are going to look like, and really what our virtual learning is going to look like. So we will also capture all of the notes that are in the chat, and we will be putting together an FAQ to be able to help you and have those answers on our district website for you to be able to pull from whenever you need it. So again, 8:25, Dr. Monares. I don't know if we want to go ahead and stop here and go ahead and close and get ready for the next one.
We have answered all questions, so we want to thank everybody for sticking and to being here with us tonight. Thank you for giving us some great ideas to help get you the information. If we can just click the slide so people can take a picture and remind themselves of our next town hall. It will be our goal to answer all the questions related to the educational program. Have a wonderful evening, please. Give your children extra hugs for us. Tell them we miss them greatly. Keep yourself safe, keep your children safe, keep your extended family safe. And as Dr. Rogers, our president, would always say, we are in this together. We are all in this together. I don't know if Dr. Volkemer, if you're still on the line, or anybody who wants to say goodbye to our families.
I am still on the line. Just want to say thank you very much for hanging in there with us. We appreciate your time, your questions, your thoughts. It's all very helpful for us as we move forward. We gave you a lot. Please know that we take safety very seriously. That has been the hallmark of our board, and kind of their theme song almost is maintaining safety for our community, and that's above all else right now. You heard a lot about what we've done. I want to thank our team and everyone involved in putting the evening together, as well as all the work that's done in preparation for a safe reopening. Thank you very much. We've got a lot going on. We're looking forward to May 10th and rounding out some of the questions you have around our educational programs. We'll keep, as was already mentioned, we're in this together. We'll keep bringing you the best information we have. Thank you very much.